Hi, my name is Matthew Kennedy. I am the chef at foodea restaurant in Lawrence Park. And today we'll be making a simple roasted squash soup with a little apple, a hint of cinnamon, and a little bit of rosemary. And to garnish the soup, we'll have just a little bit of fresh brown butter and some crisp sage. So to get started, this is a very basic foundation to soups. What we're going to do is we've got all the veggies cut up. As if you notice, they're all cut roughly the same size, so you don't have any really huge pieces and small pieces. That's very important when it cooks, because you want the cooking to be consistent and cook evenly throughout the way. So we have one acorn squash here. You can use a butternut squash as well if you want. You're looking for about 2 to 3 pounds of squash. Okay, just place that in the bowl there. And I've got half a onion, which again is cut up in a nice consistent manner. Okay, the size is not important. Whatever size you choose, stick with it. That's what's most important. I've got a little bit of apple here, which is going to be for sweetness. And a couple cloves of smashed garlic. There's 3 in there, and they're just smashed. We just take the knife and give them a pop. So those go in there as well. And we've got 1 sprig of fresh rosemary, which we're just going to put aside there for now, just to show you we're putting in there. And then I've got 2 little containers of liquid here. This one is a white wine vinegar, not to be confused with your standard white vinegar. Try not to cook with white vinegar, it's best for cleaning. This has a little bit of a sweeter taste, so we're going to use a little bit of that. Acid is actually, although a lot of people don't talk about it, acid is almost as important as salt in food. It's going to help us keep this soup nice and interesting and not really flat and boring. We've got some fresh ground cinnamon. If you have a cinnamon stick, that works as well. The only difference is with the cinnamon stick, you'll remove that at the end. So the cinnamon can just go in there. You've got about a teaspoon and a half there. We've got some salt. Again, we're just going to do a couple pinches in your hand, about 2 teaspoons. Some freshly ground black pepper, just about half a teaspoon of that, just sprinkled on top. And then to bring it all together, a little bit of olive oil. And we're just going to put enough olive oil on these vegetables here just to coat them. You don't want to drown this. This isn't. We're not deep frying here. We're just giving them a little coat, so they're not going to stick together while they're cooking. Now, ideally, we should have a slightly larger pan than this, but we're going to make it happen nonetheless. Okay, we're just going to mix this all together. Very easy. And this is a really simple foundation you can apply to hundreds of different types of soups. So you can replace the squash with, as I say, different types of squash. If you don't have an apple, you have a pear kicking around, you're welcome to use that. And any other kind of herbs you want to use, any of the spices, certainly welcome to go there as well. So we're just going to take that rosemary sprig and we're going to stick it right on top. Now we're going to take some aluminum foil and we're just going to cover this so that it is nice and snug. We don't want any air to escape. This is actually going to steam inside the oven. Now, as this steams, the water and the vinegar are going to evaporate, and we're going to see some caramelization. And that caramelization is going to give us that nice roasted, caramelized, nutty flavor we're looking for. And we've got the oven here preset at 400 degrees. We're going to place it in here. We're going to set the timer for about 25 minutes. And after 25 minutes, we're going to have a look. Give it a little toss, and at that point, we'll put them back in. We'll move on to the next stage. All right, so it's been about 25 minutes, so we're going to check on that squash roast that we have going on in the oven. And we're going to pop that open, and you can see the squash and the onions, everything's starting to get soft and steam. You can actually see that most of that liquid has evaporated away. There's less than a tablespoon of liquid in there now. Okay. And now we are actually going to return this to the oven without the lid. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of color. Okay. So we're going to return this to the oven for about 15 more minutes, just until it gets a little bit of color on top. And once that's done, the rest of the soup is literally minutes away. Okay, so we're ready to check our soup a second time. She's been in the oven for another 15 minutes without the lid, okay? Which is going to give us that nice caramelization. Okay? remember, this is a roasted soup. So if you put roasted in the title, make sure you're roasting and not just steaming, okay? So this rosemary, again, with fresh herbs, we're gonna try to take all the rosemary off, okay? Off of the stem, okay? It's not actually that hot. It looks hot, but it's not that hot, okay? And they have a saying in kitchens, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Okay, so you've got the rosemary there. So you can see everything's nice and colored up. You see the color on the apple? You see I just grabbed it and it's all starting to fall apart. Okay, the squash is getting nice and soft too. Okay, it's not finished cooking yet, but it's almost there. So all of this is gonna go in. You can see all that moisture now is dried up. Okay, and you can see in the corners it's nice and caramelized. So we're gonna get this all out of here. Okay, nice and soft and tender. Scrape every little last bit. Don't be afraid to get in there. Okay, as long as it's not black. Sometimes your corners will actually get too dark, and if that happens, just avoid the black pieces. Okay. So we've got all of that in there. This looks great. I'm going to take a little bit of water and just rinse out this casserole. Okay. Because again, we've got all that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful liquid in there. Okay. I'm going to get it all out of there. Now for the soup, to finish this, we are simply going to cover this with cold water. Okay. You're certainly welcome to go and purchase a chicken stock. Perhaps we can even show you how to make a chicken stock. Just covering that with the water. You can just see there, she's just covered to the top. And now we are going to bring this to a simmer, so turn it on to high. Bring it up to a simmer, and we're going to cook this for about another 15 minutes, just until everything gets nice and tender. Okay, so we're just finishing the cooking process. So everything now at this stage, nice and soft. Okay, all the squash is falling apart, nice and fork tender. Okay, again, you don't need to cook the life out of it. Okay, got our nice squash there. And we're going to take this just off the heat here. Okay, don't leave it on the heat when you're doing this, because as you're pureeing it, the puree will actually start to boil, and you can end up scorching yourself. So we're just going to submerge. If you have a machine like this one that has speed, start off at the lowest speed and gradually work your way up. So we're going to puree this. Okay. One thing I should say before doing that, we'll just have a look at the consistency. If you see the soup, there is a decent amount of liquid, okay, but it's not really, really soupy. If you grab a spoonful of it, okay, you can see that you have a nice amount of liquid surrounding it, but it's not all water, okay? You don't want to have too much liquid. But we're going to puree this, and if it is too thick or too thin, then I'll teach you tricks on how to adjust that. So here we go. Here goes the fun part. So after we get it in there, number one, I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Okay. And if you have less soup than this, you always want to make sure this is covered, so you can actually just tilt the soup on an angle, and you'll actually get some faster pureeing action. Okay. So we're going to puree this on a slow speed at first to start, so we get rid of all the chunks. Okay, so I'm just going on this side here. Your soup, okay, you want it to fall out of the ladle. Okay, you don't want it to chunk out. Okay, you don't want it to just drizzle out. You want it to just gently fall out. Okay, so you've got a nice consistency here.